Evening. I want to call to order this meeting of the Wendell Town Board of Commissioners. We're happy to have all of you here tonight. We have a lot of folks here. That's always wonderful to see. We're going to be led in the Pledge of Allegiance tonight by Wendell Middle School Lily Pierce. Lily is a force of positivity in our school community as she takes advantage of every opportunity to learn and grow as an individual. Lily has a strong moral compass and an incredible work ethic. These attributes allow her to excel in the classroom as well as the band and on the cheerleading squad. Lily always demonstrates strong leadership skills in our school each day as she greets others with a smile of genuine support and encouragement because she truly wants everyone to feel a sense of belonging. Lily makes an active choice to see the good in her experience and in the people she interacts with daily. At a very young age, Lily has learned to balance a strong academic focus that will build a foundation for future learning with the extracurricular experiences that will foster relationships and build a strong sense of compassion. We look forward to seeing Lily continue to grow throughout her middle school experience. This is what her principal sent to me. I had a chance to talk to her a little bit before our meeting, and she's a very impressive young woman. I thought she was getting ready to go in high school. Apparently, she's got another year of middle school, so if you have a chance to talk with her, you should. She's very impressive. So, all right.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, and indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our invocation tonight from the Wendell Council of Churches tonight is St. Eugene's Catholic Church, and we're going to hear from Ed Keegan. Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you for being here with us.
Thank you for the honor. Since you've already introduced me, I'll just go right into the prayer.
Okay.
Let us pray. Lord, grant that we may always allow ourselves to be guided by you, always follow your plans, and perfectly accomplish your holy will. Grant that in all things, great and small, today and all the days of our lives, we may do whatever you require of us. Help us respond to the slightest promptings of your grace so that we may be trustworthy instruments of your honor. May your will be done. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. Are there any adjustments to the agenda?
Madam Mayor, I would like to propose that we add 6F for a brief discussion from our planning director, Brian Coates, about bus transportation in Wendell.
Okay, so we can add that in at the end of our administrative items. So a brief discussion about bus transit in our area. Is that a motion to approve with that addition?
So moved.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve the agenda with the addition of item 6F. Is there any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right. We have no one signed up for public comment period tonight, but as a reminder, there's two ways that the public can participate in public comment. You can come the night of the meeting and sign up at the podium outside the door, and you have 3 minutes to speak, or you can come, you can submit your comments to the town clerk on the Friday before our meeting, and they'll be read into the record for the length of 3 minutes. Do we have a motion to approve our consent agenda?
Moved.
All in favor?
Aye. All right, moving into recognitions, reports, and presentations. We are going for item 4A is the recognition of Wendell Middle School teacher Nicole Darcy. When Miss Darcy came to Wendell, we were excited to have the opportunity to watch her learn and grow, but only a few short years later, we have found ourselves positioned to learn and grow from her. The relationships Miss Darcy forms with her students create a positive learning culture in her room where her students do not want to let her down. Through her intentional choices and behaviors, she is building her students' self-esteem, academic skills, and ability to persevere when they are faced with challenges. Miss Darcy also coaches cheerleading,
Because of the focus on having a sense of pride in the work we do, her cheerleaders are often showered with accolades on their performances. Miss Darcy demonstrates for others what it means to work hard, to be a risk taker, and to take pride in herself. More importantly, she demonstrates what it means to love her students unconditionally. Eleanor Roosevelt said that, quote, "The giving of love is an education of itself." When we watch Miss Darcy with her students, she is teaching them how it feels to be important, special, and most importantly, loved. And we see the great power that has on her students and the outcomes that they experience. That is certainly high praise. We wanted to have you here tonight and thank you for everything you do for our kids in Wendell. So thank you. We appreciate you.
Thank you guys so much, and
welcome.
thank you for the nomination.
welcome.
And Lily actually was one of my students also, and she's a great student, and it's been such a pleasure working with her and all the kids in general. But thank you so much.
You're welcome. All right, item 5A, or item 5, we'll move into our public hearings. We have one. Item 5A is a public hearing to annex and rezone approximately 29.38 acres from Wake County Residential 30 to Neighborhood Center Conditional District to create Old Tarboro Road townhomes at 617 Old Tarboro Road. Mr. Coates.
Yep, good evening, Mayor and board members. Tonight, your request before you is to hold a public hearing on the proposed annexation and rezoning request and make a motion on the attached ordinance. Projects surroundings, quite a variety of zoning in this area. To the north across Wendell Boulevard is the Wake Tech campus that's under construction that you'll see as corridor mixed use. The Vichet facility is manufacturing and industrial, and then to the south there is a mixture of different residential zonings. The R30 is Wake County zonings. The other zonings that you see, R4 conditional or neighborhood center, or R4 are town of Wendell districts. The request is for a neighborhood center conditional district. The neighborhood center is coded to provide areas for residential and mixed-use development in close proximity to existing and planned neighborhood centers. The intent is to create higher density residential areas that complement commercial districts with physical proximity and pedestrian connectivity. Different housing types and lot styles are encouraged. Development in this district should encourage pedestrian use through connections to adjacent neighborhoods and construction of mixed-use buildings. The applicant's proposing lot dimensions. This is a townhome project, and minimum lot width is 20. UDO requires at minimum 16. Setback is a 10-foot setback when it is designated along a thoroughfare or collector street. The applicant's meeting those, and then between buildings is either 5 or 10 feet. Overall site plan, you'll see Old Tarboro Road, which in this currently is a non-paved NCDOT roadway. The applicant, as well as other developments that are under construction to the east, are actually paving that and putting in sidewalks, making it up to a town road standard. It's expected in the future to become a town of Wendell street. The amenities for the site are here on the southern portion and on the eastern side of the parcel. And this purple hashed area is right-of-way designated by the applicant for the future, what could be the future extension of Eagle Rock Road. The town recently released an RFQ for construction design services for the extension of Eagle Rock Road. And with previous conversations with NCDOT, current transportation plan shows Eagle Rock being extended due north and connecting with the current intersection of Wake Tech's entrance on Wendell Boulevard. The second option would be to line up Eagle Rock with the intersection at Vichet. So that right-of-way that's designated in purple, the applicant has reserved in case the Vichet route in the road needs to make a turn at that location. Site plan, it is 224 townhomes, front-loaded and alley-loaded, a mixture of units. The applicant does have a variety of zoning conditions, so I'll go through these pretty quickly. Zoning condition 1, apartment building type is prohibited. 2, the minimum heated square footage of each townhome shall be at 1,500 square feet. Each unit of a townhome building shall have a garage, and you'll see there's caveats on the garage. Garages on front-loaded townhomes will be a one-car garage and at least 16.8 times 19 in size in order to accommodate containers for recycling and garbage. The town's ordinance is that you cannot keep your garbage and recycling cans in the front yard, and so either making sure there's room in the garage or giving people access to the rear of their units is essential. And in this case, the garage for a one car is wide enough to accommodate those containers and a vehicle. Garage doors on the front-loaded townhomes must contain carriage-style adornments. Garages on rear-loaded townhomes will be a two-car garage of at least 19 by 19 in size in order to accommodate containers and have a garage door with windows. Condition 4, townhouse units will have a covered front stoop. 5, vinyl siding is prohibited except for trim elements. At least 2 of the following materials shall be used on each townhome building: wood, fiber, cement, metal, masonry brick, brick veneer, masonry stone, stone veneer, board and batten, or synthetic stone. Condition 6, a minimum of 12-inch roof overhang shall be provided along the front and back of each townhome unit. Each end units will have a 12-inch roof overhang along the sides as well. Condition 7, a 20-foot wide buffer shall be maintained along the property boundary to the north and northwest. Existing plant material may be used, but shall be supplemented to meet the requirements of the 20-foot type B buffer as defined in the UDO. Condition 8, all townhome end units shall have at least 1 window per floor. Condition 9, townhome buildings shall have at least 2 front-facing gables. Condition 10, to avoid monotony of exterior elevations, a 2-foot offset in the front facade shall be used every 3rd unit at a minimum. Condition 11, townhouse buildings shall have a window shutters on at least 25% of the windows on the front facade. Condition 12, townhouse buildings shall contain an element of each of the following siding styles: horizontal, shake, and board and batten. Condition 13, each unit shall utilize a decorative front door with a minimum 10% glazing, and that is for the window in the door. Condition 14, each townhome lot shall have a minimum width of 20 and a minimum depth of 80. Condition 15, garage doors on front-loaded townhomes must contain carriage-style adornments and windows. 16, amenities shown on the master plan, which include a pool, bathhouse, pickleball courts, playground, shall be provided as shown in the master plan and maintained by the property owner association or homeowners association. All improved open space areas will include paved walkways, public seating, supplemental plantings, trash receptacles, and bicycle parking in accordance with the UDO. 17, HOA will be responsible for mowing grass within the development and caring for landscaping in commonly owned areas. The initial covenants for the HOA will provide that the HOA is responsible for maintenance of the roofs on the townhouse buildings. Condition 18, townhome units shall be permitted by right as part of the approved conditional district. Condition 19, Street F shall be a local street exempt from the standards of a local street section. There's a cemetery on site that they're not going to disturb, and so having the street standard different than our normal one allows for a street to be constructed but not disturb the existing cemetery. The right-of-way of that street will be 36 feet. Pavement will still include 2 11-foot lanes, curb and gutter, a 7-foot planting strip, and on the north side it's partially within the right-of-way and partially within a 5-foot landscape easement. The south side of the street is completely within the right-of-way. Condition 20, sidewalk 5 feet south side of the street within a 6-foot easement outside of the right-of-way. And condition 21, a 10-foot wide multi-purpose path shall be provided along the property adjacent to the Eagle Rock Road right-of-way or within the adjacent Eagle Rock right-of-way between Old Tarboro and the property's shared boundary with 729 Eagle Rock Road. So the zoning conditions, the applicant is proposing to connect to city water and sewer, which is nearby. The environmental, the applicant will need to obtain stormwater, sedimentation, erosion control permits from Wake County Environmental Services before any site work can commence. The proposed development plan will need to meet the requirements of the UDO. Currently, right now, they're showing 2 stormwater control ponds and 1 bioretention area to be used for stormwater management. Buffers, UDO requires a 10-foot type C buffer between neighborhood center and R4 zoning based on the zoning districts alone. However, since the townhome use is more intense than the adjacent existing single-family, a 20-foot type B is required in those areas. Section 8.9 requires a 10-foot street yard where any rear yards abuts a street right-of-way. The proposed development plan includes a 20-foot type B buffer along the northern and southern boundaries since these abut existing single-family residential uses. A type B buffer does require one tree every 25 feet and one shrub every 6. The proposed development plan does include a 10-foot type C buffer along the eastern boundary. Type C buffer requires one canopy tree every 40 and one shrub every 8. The proposed development plan does include a 10-foot street yard buffer along Eagle Rock Road and Old Tarboro. A street yard buffer for the proposed townhome use is 2 canopy trees per 100 linear feet of frontage. Open space, UDO requires 1,000 square feet of open space per townhome dwelling unit. 75% of that can be passive, 25% can be improved, and then a third of the improved needs to be considered active. With the 224 lots, they need a minimum of 5.14 acres. They're providing 5.25. The active open space includes pool, pickleball courts, and a playground. Streams and wetland. The current development plan does show the locations of streams and wetlands. No floodplain exists on site. A stream runs along the southeastern side of the site, and development plans show the required 50-foot noose riparian buffer, which is measured from the top of the stream bank. There are no proposed lots within that noose riparian buffer. Transportation. UDO requires a TIA for development plan that exceeds the 100 peak hour trips per day. The applicant was required to do a TIA. TIA has been approved by NCDOT. I'll go over these slides, and then based on design change, this first requirement to construct the north site driveway as a right-in, right-out with one ingress and egress lane. The applicant adjusted their plans based on the right-of-way dedication for future Eagle Rock, so that intersection went away. Therefore, it's not required, even though it's in the TIA. Eagle Rock Road at Street A, the central site driveway. Construct an exclusive southbound left turn on Eagle Rock with 50 feet of storage and appropriate tapers. Construct the central site driveway with one ingress and one egress lane. Eagle Rock Road at Minor Thoroughfare, the south site driveway. Construct the entrance as the same as Street A. Old Tarboro, construct a west site driveway as a right-in, right-out driveway with one ingress and egress lane. Old Tarboro at Street A, also constructed as a site driveway. The applicant has worked with town staff to reserve roughly a quarter acre of area at the intersection of Old Tarboro and Eagle Rock Road for future right-of-way if needed, as the town plans for the adjustment of Eagle Rock Road. As part of the reservation of future right-of-way, the Street B connection to Eagle Rock, which I had mentioned, has been eliminated. The road connectivity without Street B connection still complies with the town of Wendell UDO regulations and provides ample ingress and egress points for the proposed neighborhood. You can see the TIA, the turn lane here into the main entrance, and then you'll see there's other improvements made by others at the intersection. Future Eagle Rock Road is a future 4-lane divided roadway. Roadway contains 110-foot right-of-way that includes 12-foot travel lanes, 5-foot bike lanes, 6-foot sidewalks, and street trees. Along all of our major roadways like Eagle Rock, we're asking for the 10-foot multi-use path, and they're providing that along Eagle Rock Road. As I mentioned, Town of Wendell is undergoing an RFQ process to have the extension studied of Eagle Rock to determine the future location. As part of the study, Eagle Rock Road could be extended northeast to the entrance of micro measurements, therefore having that area reserved for future right-of-way at Old Tarboro and Eagle Rock Road is important and needed. Their local streets, the Minor Thoroughfare that extends from Peyton Place and Anderson Farm is a 79-foot right-of-way with travel lanes, bike lanes. It's key to know all road frontages contain 5-foot sidewalks throughout the development except for Eagle Rock, which will have a 10-foot multi-use path, and the Minor Thoroughfare that will have 6-foot sidewalks. In addition, the site plan is providing 27 off-street parking spaces at the amenity center and 15 spaces at the mail kiosk and 5 more at the dog park. This is the phasing of the neighborhood. There's two phases. Everything in blue is phase one. So here's the collector, minor thoroughfare that's on the transportation plan. They are proposing, the road is stopping short of the property line. They're proposing a fee in lieu request that will have to come back before you if this project is approved. Old Tarboro is here, runs east-west, and then Eagle Rock is here. Comprehensive plan, the parcel, the 29 acres, has two different classifications. Everything south of Old Tarboro is classified as medium residential living 2, which is classification of 4 to 8 dwelling units per acre with open spaces that are active, pocket parks, allows for single-family, detached and attached housing units. Innovation District is the classification north of Old Tarboro Road. Innovation District allows for a mix of use ranges from light industrial to maker space to office, retail, and service. It does also include multifamily condominiums and apartments from a housing component, but things like brewery, hotel, retail, restaurants, those typical non-residential uses. The proposed project meets characteristics outlined in the descriptions of medium residential living 2 as it relates to use, street pattern, street types, connectivity, and open space. The portion south of Old Tarboro is moderately dense, comprised of single-family attached in this case, and the proposed project is entirely composed of townhomes. Their density overall for the project is 7.6 units per acre. The improved open spaces are in the form of pocket neighborhood park. The proposed development does have a dog park, playground, pool, and pickleball courts. Any recommended change to the zoning map should be accompanied by a statement explaining how the change is or is not consistent with the comp plan and is not reasonable in nature. A portion of the project falls under the Innovation District place type. While Innovation District allows for multifamily, condos, and apartments, townhomes are not mentioned, and therefore the 10.27 acres within the project is considered inconsistent with the place type. If the development is approved, this portion of the project will need to be coded as medium residential 2 to be consistent with the rest of the development. Roughly 19.38 acres would be remaining of the parcel in the north and classified as innovation along Wendell Boulevard. Therefore, the plan is partially consistent with Blueprint Wendell 2030, but could be considered reasonable as the goals listed below: neighborhoods and housing, diversity housing to appeal to different groups, age, income, lifestyle preference, and family situations. Connectivity, C2, improve the connectivity, robustness, and resiliency of the transportation system within and near Wendell. The project is reserving close to 13,000 square feet for future right-of-way to facilitate the future alignment of Eagle Rock Road. Planning Board at their November 21st, 2022 meeting did vote in favor of the project 6-1. If the plans are approved, the applicant would have to submit construction drawings to be reviewed by TRC. They did hold a neighborhood meeting virtually on June 29th, 2022 with 12 people in attendance. The minutes from that meeting are included in your attachments. Staff's comments: the proposed development is partially consistent with the Wendell Comp Plan. Blueprint Wendell 2030 is could be considered reasonable since it fulfills the goals of the comp plan noted above. Staff's recommending approval. I can field any questions you have at this time. The applicant does have a PowerPoint as well.
Okay. Let's open the public hearing. Are there any questions from the board at this time?
A couple of little ones.
Okay.
Brian, condition number 19 about street F being different than the normal standards. I know you read out what is going to be required. Can you just talk about how that's different than what would have been required otherwise?
Yeah, typically our local streets are 52-foot right-of-way, so they're proposing a 36-foot right-of-way. A 52-foot right-of-way includes 2 travel lanes, sidewalks, 7-foot planting strips, and curb and gutter. In this case, they're not providing sidewalk on, so if you can see the cursor, the cemetery is here. So this is the street that they've asked to be a different standard. So it serves only housing units on one side of the street that front this street. The backs of the homes face Eagle Rock Road. Our preference was that they front along this street and that the front yards are not along what will be a future 4-lane median roadway. We, as a staff preference, we would rather see that landscaping in kind of a defined area. Typically, if people go out their front door, you could have kids playing or residents trying to use their front yard when you've got a 4-lane median divided roadway. That, from our eye, can have some conflicts. So we worked with them to adjust that street detail where we're still getting a sidewalk down the street. We're still getting 2 11-foot travel lanes. It's just a different right-of-way where some of it's in a public easement and not in the right-of-way.
And then, I'm sorry, I don't remember what the condition number is, but one of the early ones talks about at least one window per floor on the end units. I assume that means on the ends, and the
Correct.
front window doesn't count, but just want to clarify.
Correct, it's on the ends, and we're starting to see that as a condition, as there are some homes being constructed with no windows on the side, and we've heard feedback from the community that it's just not attractive. And so this condition guarantees there will be on the side at least one window per floor.
And then finally, sort of along Eagle Rock Road, there's, I think I counted 3 different stub streets or stub alleys that are on, I think that I see. Can you just talk about sort of staff perspective on that? They don't seem like things that'll ever connect anything, if that's gonna be a 4-lane divided highway, but.
Yeah, so there'll just be this site driveway A and the minor thoroughfare that will collect to Eagle Rock. These alleyways are very similar to what we have in Wendell Falls. Not all the alleyways will connect, and they're meant for resident access and garbage truck and recycling service. So these alleyways will not connect to Eagle Rock. We don't want basically a 20-foot alley connecting to a 4-lane major road. So that's when we get with alleys, all their other alleys are connecting. There are some that are just serving a couple units in this case. So the front of these are all alley-loaded townhomes that front along that minor thoroughfare, but their driveway and garage access are in the rear, which is also where recycling and garbage pickup would be as well.
And so if you were to look at maybe where the phase 2 arrow is pointing.
Yep.
What about that?
Yeah, so that was connecting to Eagle Rock, but in the revision, when they dedicated this future right-of-way that we may need, it was our recommendation that that not connect, and same with DOT.
Okay. One last one for right now. The stub where you talked about the fee in lieu.
Yep.
With it not connecting, is that related to environmental stuff or adjacent property owner preference or something else?
Yeah, so the project that's south of Old Tarboro here is called Peyton Place. They're building to this property line. There is a gap here on the Bateman property, but I can let the applicant talk more about their request for fee in lieu. There are some environmental features in here, and to build to the property line, they mentioned that that was very challenging based on crossing that stream.
Thank you.
So.
Is that all from the board for right now? Okay, let's hear from the applicant.
Good evening, Mayor Gray, members of the commission. My name is Toby Coleman. I am a land use attorney with Smith Anderson. My address is 150 Fayetteville Street in Raleigh. I am here with Mike Fitzgerald of Haley Development. They're the developer and applicant on this project, as well as a full team from Kimley Horn. They're doing both the engineering on both the civil side and the traffic side. We've got Matt Gross, Adam Fullerton, and Wendell's own Kevin Dean there. So wanted to, Brian did a fantastic job of sort of going over the basics with you. I'm going to touch up base on a couple items. Councilor Eastman, I will try to address the questions that you raised while I'm going through this. And if there are other questions that either I or our team can answer, feel free to interrupt, feel free to, don't be shy. Just to give you a sense, one thing I did want to note is that this property that we're seeking the annexation and rezoning of was officially subdivided, so we had gone through most of the process, and you may have seen a reference in the staff report to it being a portion of a larger 40-acre parcel. It was officially subdivided as of last week, I believe last Monday, in fact. So it is just over a 29-acre parcel there. And Brian went over this, so I won't spend too much time on it. I'll just note that the density with the 224 townhomes on about 29 acres, you get about 7.6 units per acre, which is consistent with the comp plan guidance for medium residential living too. Brian talked, and the staff report talked about the comp plan and comp plan consistency. The one area where we were found not to be consistent is the portion on the north there, and the portion outlined in blue is the area that was subdivided off, just to give you a sense of it. The portion that's got the red dashing is the portion of the property that is in the innovation district, and maybe easier to see on the large screen. I don't know how it's coming up on your small screen. But that actually turns out to be a bit of so the innovation district, as you know, the idea there is more for commercial and office uses, denser uses. As Brian said, there is a provision that says that it's appropriate to have apartments, condominiums, those sort of housing uses there. And what I would just note there is that in this case, we believe that a step down in sort of designation is appropriate on this portion of that property north of Tarboro. And the reason being that it doesn't really have access to Wendell Boulevard. It's along a portion, and it fronts on a portion of Old Tarboro that, as Brian mentioned, is currently unpaved and is going to be paved as part of a series of developments, both here and with Peyton Place, I believe, is the other development that's going to be doing that, I believe.
Could you restate those last 2 points?
Sure. So, let's see here if I can. Yeah. So my point there is just, this is Old Tarboro Road right here. That's the dividing line between the Innovation District area that's designated Innovation District and the medium residential 2 district. This project is in compliance with the guidance for a medium residential 2 designated property. My point is that in terms of the Innovation District, as staff has noted, we are not technically in compliance because the Innovation District seeks even denser uses. So it calls for apartments, condos, but doesn't mention townhomes. Whereas medium residential 2 advises 4 to 8 units per acre. In this context, that portion of the property that will be part of this development is, so just to show this development, whoops. So the portion we're talking about is right here. This is Old Tarboro. There's a stream right here, and there's sort of a series of sort of physical and natural barriers that really make this portion really more focused towards Old Tarboro and to the south, and not to Wendell Boulevard. So our point being that the designation there sort of followed the road in terms of the Innovation District. We think that once you get on the ground there, that actually the split that we've proposed makes a bit more sense in terms of the southern part being sort of your transition zone from the Innovation District, being that area that is 4 to 8 units, and then and providing proximity to areas like the new Wake Tech 4.0, which is there to the north, as you know, to micro measurements, across the street to the college, and having this area be slightly denser housing uses. Did I answer your question, Councilor?
Yeah, no, I was just, you're good. Here are the traffic improvements. Brian did a good job of explaining all of this. I'm going to try not to repeat what he said. One thing I will note
is that the discussion about Eagle Rock Road and the extension of Eagle Rock Road there, where that sort of purple, lilac, pink, whatever color you want to call that is, that came up in the middle of development. We were sort of halfway through the project, and we worked extensively with Brian and his team, as well as with DOT, to figure out where was the appropriate place for the Eagle Rock extension. We know that's an important thing for the town. It's also part of the DOT's plans. We had presumed all along that it would go consistent with the future land use map, the town's future land use map, which just says, basically, it will go north. There was a desire on the town, and you guys are now doing that, to seek to try to determine what is the best alignment and have some flexibility there. And so that is, to Commissioner Eatman's point, it's where we basically determined that that road just south of Tarboro that runs east to west would dead end instead of going all the way through to Eagle Rock Road. And we would have that area that basically the town could have free of charge for right-of-way dedication if DOT and the town determined it was necessary. If not, it will remain open space. And again, we also felt like this was something that was useful in terms of traffic. We are sensitive to the fact that Eagle Rock is a heavily traveled road. This is, as you know, on the northern side of Eagle Rock. So we're trying to help provide some solutions. Our hope is that with the improvements outlined here, that will help provide more of a grid that will provide more access both to the north, the east, and the west. Our traffic study did show that almost all the traffic would go that way and not to the south. In terms of Commissioner Eatman, your question about this area right here, so there is a road, it's currently called Astromeda. I believe that there's some discussion about whether that should be the name. The reason that we are asking for a fee in lieu, there's two reasons. Number one, if we built to the property line, it would be in the middle of the Neuse River buffer right there, and there's really no place to land. What we would need to do to land, quote unquote, land the street, so you don't have like a bridge hanging out, is you need to get to the other side, and the problem here is this triangle piece. So the adjoining property owner owns this piece of land between us and Peyton Place. At the town's request, we did go to the property owner multiple times and did reach out to the property owner and seek to make an offer. Our understanding is, I believe from the communications that our broker gave us, that the family was having some health issues and did not want to discuss it and did not want to take us up on that discussion. So that is where we have left it. Happy to discuss any conditions. We did try to provide a number of conditions so that we weren't saying, trust me on design. Rather, we were coming in and saying, you're going to get a product, and in terms of what kind of product you're going to get, you had some specifics. To give you a sense, here's the rendering of the rear load unit. These are the alley accessed units, and there are the front load units with garages out front. With that, we are available for questions.
Thank you. Any questions from the board? Ma'am?
I just have a quick question. While we're looking at this rendering, we talked about one window on the side.
Mm-hmm.
Three-story townhome. There appears to be nothing on the ground floor. Do we consider floor 2 to be the main floor? Because I see 3 and then I see 2, but I see none down low. So
you're talking about here?
Correct.
Where I have the cursor? I believe it is a garage, so I will. Mike, why don't you come up and talk?
Thank you.
I just want to make sure we're clear on what we're.
I don't know if the other plans have a better look or not.
Can you remind us of your name?
Yes, I'm
please?
Mike Fitzgerald with Haley Development.
Thank you.
So we plan to go with the condition of one window per floor. I think it might be blocked out by the street light, so I think it might be there, but it just doesn't show up.
Okay.
So if there's a condition for that, we'll
So
adhere to it.
So, Commissioner Deloach, I think what Mike is saying, and I will go ahead and follow up, is that if this, just because this rendering doesn't show it, this was a this is a rendering sort of that gives you a conceptual sense. I'll be honest, I don't know that we fact check it for every single thing, but we are bound by what is in the conditions first, and that is a window for every floor. And
And I'm also reasonable not expecting a window in a garage. So if there's typically in a three-story, there's a garage in the front, perhaps there's another room in the back.
That's right.
I'm assuming the window goes in the room.
That'd be correct. It wouldn't be in the garage area. That's
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Yes, go ahead.
Quick question, just a couple of things. I saw how deep are the garages? It said 19 feet?
Yeah, it's 19 feet. Well, I'm going to pull this up.
So I'm thinking a full-size truck, how deep it is, how, fit in
Yeah,
there,
so-
probably won't fit.
We actually did have quite a bit of discussion about this. So the front-loaded garages, we actually worked to pull out the plans and measure them. They're 16 feet wide and 19 feet deep. And
So
then,
most full-size trucks need about 20, so you don't hit the sheet rock in front of it, stuff like that. Yeah, they're a little short. Even the driveways, how deep are the driveways so a full-size truck can fit in there with their ball and hit, on the back, 22 feet, 30 feet long? I mean, how deep are they?
Town requires a driveway, whether it's alley loaded or front loaded, to be a minimum 20 feet.
20 feet?
Mhm.
But just they can't put it in the garage then, all right, and then how many parking spots? There's only 47 total parking spots for that many units, so
So
we're
they'll
short
have-
about 177 spots.
So they'll have their spots in their driveways and then garages. So if it's a two-car garage on the alley loaded, there's 2 in the garage, 2 in the driveway. And then front loaded, if it's a one-car garage and 1 spot in the driveway, it meets our requirements. And then there are guest parking at the amenity
Yeah,
centers
those
as well.
47 spots for all of our guests.
Mhm.
That's it, all right. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Anything else from the board?
Yeah, if you can go back to your, I think one of the very first slides that shows the subdivision that's recently been completed of the 2 parcels.
Yeah.
That works. Thinking about the northern parcel that remains and that would theoretically still be part of a innovation district
That's right.
designation. If what's currently north of Old Tarboro Road is sort of, from y'all's perspective, not appropriate, or facing south, you talked about a stream, you talked about some access restrictions. Can you talk a little bit about how the piece that remains would be
sure.
accessed and sort of how all those pieces of logic fit together?
So we would anticipate, so you've got, this is the site right here, if I'm
Right.
tracing it. So this is probably the portion that is, I would believe to be the most developable. Would you agree with that, Mike?
Well, yeah, then there's
And then there's some portion over here.
There's development ability on that,
Was that most developable? Is that what you said?
Yes, sir. Most developable. Sorry if I'm not enunciating, I apologize. There is a stream right here. So it splits the site right here. And so this is the portion that we felt.
And it may actually, my question may be clearer if I just ask what the logic was in drawing the line of the subdivision. Why is this how that parcel is subdivided?
Well, let me see. Which on our team? I'm going to ask Matt Gross. He's the
Okay.
civil, so he's going to have the best sense of this.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Matt Gross. I'm a landscape architect, Kimley Horn, located at 421 Fayetteville Street in downtown Raleigh. You're asking a really good question. One of the reasons for the line is there was a requirement and a request by the landowner to hold a certain acreage of land adjacent to Wendell Boulevard. So when we took that into account, not only were we looking, obviously, what is going to be the most efficient way for us to maximize our use north of Old Tarboro, but we're also, wow, that bled over, Old Tarboro Road. Not only that, but we were also thinking of the viability of the site to the north along Wendell Boulevard. And if I'm not mistaken, we tried to leave enough depth there off of the back curb of Wendell Boulevard to accommodate a typical commercial use in that area. So, you know, the western boundary was dictated by the stream and trying to keep all of our improvements. And one of the things we've talked about is the landing of the road. You know, there's grading that goes with that. We can draw a line all day long, but it's not going to stop right there. There's going to be some spilling out of grading to make that line go all the way to the property line. So what we did is we pulled that western boundary back far enough to where we could terminate that street without impacting the stream buffer at this time. The northern boundary was a little bit more based on, you know, what our offsets are going to be from an efficiency standpoint with those lots, the units, the streets that are going to be required, as well as the Old Tarboro Road dedication. And then you kind of see that little fin piece there at the northeast. That is in order to treat our storm. And some of that, again, has to do with the efficiencies of our site. You know, we're kind of pushing, pulling, moving things around. And so what happened is that's actually one of the low points of our property. And so that was a very logical place to set a storm feature while also creating and promoting connectivity off-site as well as on-site and to the external streets that we were trying to tie into. So hopefully that helps.
Very helpful, thank
Yep.
you. A couple more, if that's okay, Mayor. Can you, I don't know whoever this question is for, but are there any, does DOT have any access restrictions on that section of Wendell Boulevard adjacent to the northern parcel that's already been subdivided that we are aware of?
Kevin, do you know that answer? I'm gonna have Kevin come up, he's our traffic engineer.
Good evening, Kevin in with Kimley Horn. I don't believe there are any restrictions like you would see in a control of access standpoint, so I think that it would be reasonable to expect the alignments that y'all are considering for the extension could happen across from Wake Tech and could go down as far as Fache, if that, wherever those landed.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
You hit my question right on the head. And then on the portions of the property, I'll finally get to the part that we're actually here to talk about tonight, south of Old Tarboro Road. There's some historical resources related to the buildings, and we've talked a little bit about the cemetery tonight. Can you talk a little bit about, well, I'll just talk about what I think, and if you have anything you want to add. I think my comment would just be, I mean, got a 19th century farmstead, relatively rare as things go in this part of the county. Interest in home, interest in outbuildings, interest in cemetery, which I'm glad that's not being relocated. But I always love, if it makes sense, I mean, I know it's not at the top of y'all's list and it shouldn't be, but some sort of effort toward some sort of documentation when those sort of resources are being removed. So I'm not asking for an additional, or I'm not prepared to ask for an additional condition right this second. I don't have one written for you to look at, but just sort of thinking toward whether or not there's any room for any kind of documentation of a resource before it's removed. The building specifically is what I'm talking about.
Well, that's a great point, and if you're not seeking a condition, what I can do is we can talk with Brian about how they would receive things like videotapes, photographs, things like that for the purposes of preservation.
Thank you.
Anything else?
I guess for me, it's just I mean, I can go back and forth about renderings and what it's gonna look like. I think for me, you've heard us say before here that the mixed use is important. So, you know, I'd probably like a little more of a discussion on, you know, the innovation district, and we've kind of danced around it. It doesn't really meet it. The south side does, the north side doesn't. I don't know that I'm a fan of that. It appears, just looking at it, that 102 units are on the north side of the 224. So, and I'm not here to talk about how you make money and margins and that kind of thing, but is the north side, I mean, does that have to happen to make the deal work? And I'm just cutting to the chase there.
Yes, the answer is yes. And, you know, one thing I would say, I hear both in your comments and in your voice a concern about the mix of uses. One thing I would say is that, in some ways, the owner, as Matt Gross just outlined, in some way, the owner who's going to retain what I will call the commercial piece of this property, is working to do a horizontal mix of uses in doing this subdivision. Obviously, they'll have to come back and do a rezoning and ask for an annexation. One of the pieces of a mixed-use district is to have housing in proximity, and this achieves it at a dense. This in some ways achieves housing in proximity to some of your most major innovation district uses. Particularly, I'm thinking of Wake Tech 4.0. In a close proximity to those uses, with a type of use that is lower density than apartments or condos. So it sort of, in some ways, strikes a bit of a middle balance. That is obviously may or may not address your concerns, but I at least wanted to raise that because it is a way to address some of those questions.
Well, I think that, the south side, it's obviously an odd shape without the north side. We've done townhomes before. For me, that's probably the highest and best sort of use there. But I don't know if we're just, are we just adding on the north side to make it a project that works? I guess I'm just thinking out loud to see if anybody else has any thoughts on it, but.
Madam Mayor, if you don't mind, I do. I appreciate it. It's a dirt road today. Eventually, it won't be. It will be the first road off of the end of NC 97 when it crosses Battle Bridge. It's an odd shape, and I understand why your client would want to cut it. I understand why you cut it where you cut it. I don't know that I agree if I'm riding down Wendell Boulevard looking at what is going to be left of that commercial space, that is the highest and, as Commissioner Lutch said, highest and best use for that version of the commercial space. What I'm confident of is the closer we get back to the intersection of Rollsville Road, the more intense of a use and the more commercial of a use I expect to see there. And if I have come across the newly constructed Old Battle Bridge and take a right going down Old Tarboro, I would expect to see residential on my left. And then based on the amount of development, not on this site, but the sites around it, the closer we get back on the right-hand side to see those commercial uses, those neighborhood center type, smaller, serve the community type spaces. The map that's there now, I can see I-87 and I can see the intersection of 97 and Wendell Falls Parkway, or Wendell Boulevard. I think it's hard to say that we're not going to see more dense use, and I appreciate the suggestion that maybe you could go less dense there. I don't know that. I think I could buy into some of my friends' ideas about south of Old Tarboro and north of Old Tarboro, but that's a lot of product that isn't what we intended for north of Old Tarboro, ending up in that space and locking us out forever from being able to do the other thing. Like I said, I'm not opposed to the townhomes, and in all honesty, I think on the density scale, I'd be more apt to lean the other direction to a more dense product on the north side, because I truly believe that while maybe not this shape, all of that is going to develop commercially. And I think it's important to get that connection just as right as it is to get the connection north and south across Old Tarboro. Those are my thoughts, if that helps anybody.
The board good for now? Okay. ahead.
So just, I mean, to answer, I guess, some of your question on the transition zone, if you don't mind. The property to the right, on the east side is, developed by, D.R. Horton. And they're bringing townhouses right up to the edge of our, eastern property line. So I agree there's a transition, but there's, the townhouses that we propose on the northern edge along Old Tarboro Road are gonna be fronting the road, so it'll be a nice look as you go past. And there is a transition area on the west side of our project, from there to, the intersection of Roseville Road. So just kind of take that into consideration as well. I think there's transition area that you're looking for, I think is there, it's just a little bit further down the road, that's all. Thank you.
All right, is there anyone that's come tonight that would like to speak about this project, for or against, or anything that's come? Okay. Anything else from the board?
Well, I guess I'll just restate, for me, you know, and I get it, if you start saying, hey, I'm good with the south side, not the north side, that changes quite a few things. It changes, amenities, because then you're down to, I don't know, my math, maybe 122 units. Is that feasible for a swimming pool, you know, HOA? So I guess, you know, where I am, I don't know that I like it as it is. I'm willing to take the south side, not necessarily the north side, but I understand that that might not be a agreeable thing, but.
Anyone else? All right, well, let's close the public hearing. And
So this is generally the part where I would make a motion, but I don't know what motion to make, based on the amount of conversation that's had. What I would say is it sounds like there's somewhat of a consensus around the north side, or there sounds like there's concern about that transition piece. It also sounds like there's support for a project that includes townhomes on the south side of that.
And I'll also say that I think that we've heard before that we are in favor of mixed use. And correct me if I'm wrong, that's a third of the district on the north side that we would be taking away. Is that?
Yeah, the remaining parcel that's not highlighted in red on that map is roughly almost 20 acres. The north side with townhomes is roughly around 10 acres, so yes, a third.
Okay. And I guess what I'm hearing from the applicant is they are not interested in a south side only, so. Seems that.
Can someone nod their head in agreement with that doesn't work?
Yeah, they already did.
Okay.
You know, about the north side being out of the project, yeah, there's, I mean, not only the amenities which you mentioned, which are appropriate, sizing wise, which you can offer community to make it a place where people want to live. It does give you that additional ability to do that. And I'd also say that the improvements that we're going to be making on Old Tarboro Road to improve that, as well as Eagle Rock, also really weigh into the equation as far as, you know, what we can do and accomplish on this to provide a quality project for the town. Is really impacted by the loss of that northern edge.
I think too, I'd love to offer a couple thoughts as a professional land planner, landscape architect, just what we're looking at here. You know, I understand 100% the line of thought here that we have an innovation district that's encapsulated in that entire northern parcel, as we'll call it, north of Old Tarboro. I think, to Mike's point, the pizza-shaped site that we have, there's a lot of adjacent public improvements that we're making here that's really been well thought out to date. And I will also note that as you think of an innovation district and as you think of transition zones and transition areas, you always want to go from more rural to less rural to more dense to commercial. And although this may not be multifamily in its inherent definition, this is still a multifamily project in the sense that you have one structure with multiple units associated with it with shared walls. And I think as you're driving down the future Old Tarboro, I agree with the idea that, there's going to be a transition point. Where is that going to happen? And I think one of the things that I personally really like about the way this is shaped up is as you're coming down Old Tarboro from what we're seeing on the east from Old Battle Bridge, is you're going to have a lot of single family. And if you just go straight from single family to commercial, it doesn't differentiate us. And so what I really like here is the fact that we go from single family to townhomes that aren't sprawling with a lot of green space on that north side. They're a little more packed in to where they're a little more dense, to where it feels a little bit more like you're entering into a more transitional, more commercial innovation district area. But then I think the last little piece here in my mind that really helps us is there's an environmental feature, right on that western line that I mentioned on the north side of the parcel. So that is a really nice transition that no matter what, unless somebody's willing to front the cost of significant environmental impact fees in a dollar amount, you're always going to have a strip of green there. And yes, that strip of green is going to be bisected at points for street crossings, but you're always going to have some level of green. And so that to me is a really nice transition from our townhome product to whatever that commercial use may be, let alone whatever the future Eagle Rock alignment takes. That's one of the things we balance, as we mentioned, is what is Eagle Rock going to look like? What is the ultimate build-out section? What does our project look like in coordination with that to where it doesn't just feel like, this one works, this one works. It's how do those all interact? And it's really a unique challenge, and it's a really difficult challenge. But I wanted to shed a little bit of light on what my perspective is here. I know I come from the development side, and I understand that. But at the same time, I do feel that this fits, although maybe not the letter of the innovation district, I do feel that it meets the intent. I couldn't sit there quietly without saying that. So please forgive me if I'm too wordy, but thank you.
Commissioners, Mayor, first of all, thank you for your time. This was a case where, frankly, the issue of comprehensive plan consistency, while it's been something that has been identified, has not been a particular issue. We've spent about a year on this, and it has not been something that has been front of discussion. We've worked through a lot of issues. This has not been something that either at Planning Commission or at staff, it has not been the number one issue, I guess is the way I'll put it. And so we certainly hear your concerns. And to the extent that you all are not ready to approve it, I would ask you not to vote it down and give us some time to work on it. As you've heard, I think there are some arguments. But there's also some significant considerations that y'all are weighing, and we'd like an opportunity, if y'all need that, for us to go back and work on that and come back and talk to you. So, thank you.
Does either the applicant or staff have a proposed, or do we need to propose the timeline? Or can we be silent on that particular matter?
I think we just let them.
You can be, but if there's a request, I would defer to that.
To whatever time staff and they would feel that they have something to bring back to us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't know that that's staff-driven. That'd be more applicant-driven on how long they need to evaluate higher density use on the north side.
We would propose, I guess for the time being, a month. We might, depending on what Mr. Colley thinks, we might ask that the hearing be held open so you don't have to renotice it. Probably a month, and then we'll probably figure out within that time if we need, where we are is we need additional time to do work, or if we can come up with something that solves the issue.
I think Her Honor has closed the
I
hearing
already
already.
closed the public.
Yeah, okay.
But we can
But continuing
continue
the action to,
to
30 days,
30 days, we can do that,
you can do that.
yeah. Okay. You wanna make a motion to that? Continue, or I'm not trying to tell you what to do.
Yes, ma'am, I'm gonna make that motion, but given everything you've heard tonight, you believe that that's something that you guys would like to continue to pursue?
We'd certainly like the opportunity to continue to pursue it and see if there is a workable option. Obviously, you know, as I said, they've been working on this for a year, and to drop it at this point, I think would be.
That's why I discussed versions of motions 3 times and said normally I'd make one.
Yeah.
So, make the motion.
Move we allow, this item to be, the public hearing is closed, but I move we allow this item to be continued, for 1 month,
Okay. All right, we have a motion.
or until such time that the applicant,
That'd be March 27th.
Okay. You wanna say as such time as the applicant is prepared to come back?
correct,
Is
that'd be
that-
great.
I would
That's-
not, I would not
That's
leave
wide
it
open,
Don't
yes.
leave it open.
So you'd say a month,
Pick a date certain.
okay.
You can always, if you have a conversation on 27th and it's not right for decision, you can always defer it.
Continue it again for another
Okay.
30 days. So, and that's March 27th meeting?
I am always a proponent of getting it right, so if we need time, I would prefer that we take the time.
So can the motion be to continue it until March 27th?
Yes, ma'am, Madam Mayor.
Okay. So we have a motion to continue this until March 27th, 2023. Is there any discussion on the motion? All right, all in favor? All right. We'll move into our administrative items now, and the first is item 6A, adoption of fiscal year 2023 budget ordinance amendment number 2. Mr. Johnson.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the board. Let me get this presentation pulled back up.
Okay.
As you stated, here to present the fiscal year 2023 budget ordinance amendment number 2. The action to be requested tonight is a motion to adopt the second budget ordinance amendment for fiscal year 2023, for the 2023 budget. Y'all were presented the first budget amendment a few months back, back in the fall, so you're kind of familiar with this process. The purpose is to maintain budgetary compliance and a balanced budget. As new unbudgeted items come before you that you have approved, we have to maintain that balanced budget. So this is the formal act to keep projects and expenditures balanced with the revenue or fund balance appropriation.
Garrett, as you go through these, can you mention dollar amounts? It says there's, I know there's the summary and the amendment itself, but there's not a connection to each of these individual things.
Yeah, let me see
financial
what
figures.
I've got. So what I have in front of me today is kind of summarized numbers by the either revenue or expenditure. So I might be having to ballpark on a project basis.
Okay.
The first one was Officer Safety and Rapid Response Enhancement. It's an initiative to expand policing capabilities to respond to active shooters and other high-risk situations. This included new duty gear and training. This was funded through lapsed salary and taxes and benefits through vacant positions within the police department. So it is self-funded, it's just reallocating existing appropriations That was in the amount of approximately 78,000 in total, if ballpark, Chief Carter's giving me the head nod. Moving to the next one, the Wendell Park concession stand improvements, the board approved that design build contract, which came in quite over budget from what the original anticipated number was. 168,000, I believe, is what that number was. That was balanced with exceeding Parks and Rec revenues, so mostly kept internal. We did notice that fortunately investment interest is performing much better now that we're slowly coming out of the COVID recession. So we're recognizing some excessive revenues there. Police radios and ammunition, these were encumbered and ordered back in 2022 fiscal year, but due to supply chain, the vendor could not fulfill it, so it's kind of an academic exercise, to be quite honest, but we're balancing that with some excessive property tax, ad valorem taxes. A lot of these projects have little bits and pieces of ad valorem taxes to help balance that. The East Wake TV PEG channel expenses, this is kind of an effort to be more transparent in our budgeting. Historically, we get quarterly franchise tax distributions, and we have a quarterly expense to East Wake TV to provide these meetings and other programming, and that was just reducing the revenue line. But we're creating an expenditure line so that there's a revenue and an expenditure, so it's just ultimately a little more transparent. So no change in that, but just a new reporting standard for us. Some stormwater rental efforts is a lot of stuff we had contracted out. We're moving that, or part of that effort internally, so that's self-balancing. Sidewalk program, we received about, I believe it was 110,000 additional dollars in Powell bill funding. There was some, I won't say confusion, but wasn't clear on what the appropriations were going to be and the additional funding that had been provided in years past. So we were conservative. Unfortunately, it came in over. So we're applying that to the sidewalk program, which was originally fund balance appropriations funded. Public Works portable radios. Portable radios have been purchased, or ordered at least, to maintain proper communications amongst our staff for events such as inclement weather, or special events such as the 4th of July fireworks show that we had this past year, in future years. Again, excess ad valorem taxes are being used to fund that initiative. Acquisition of park properties. Additional funds to be appropriated for the acquisition of a future park and athletic field property. That would be the property north of the current community park that Wake County has now acquired. So that would be part of the the Wendell Athletic Facility. Additionally, that kind of incorporates the future Northside Park land acquisition. That will also have some hopefully offsetting North Carolina Land and Water Fund grant revenues. So that's a balance in that, and additionally some fee in lieu of open space funds that we currently have on hand to help fund those acquisitions. In that individual transaction, with the addition of the grant and applying the fee in lieu, that allowed us to reduce a little bit of the fund balance appropriations originally intended to fund some of those projects. The Wendell Police Department applied for and received a new Wake ABC grant. So that is just formally recognizing the revenue which we have received and any matching expenditures that would be applied to that. The Capital Area Preservation Property Agreement, either at your last meeting or the meeting prior, the board approved to provide capital area preservation with funds to help secure and prepare the historic Anderson Hood property to later be resold. So that's just recognizing that, and that was in the amount of $100,000. Computer replacement program. So part of the first budget amendment that was brought to you, we applied you approved to apply extra fund balance appropriations to fund additional technology resources to kind of build a spare or loaner program. We are now able, with this amendment, to reverse that fund balance appropriation with recognized revenue. So kind of what we promised last time is we're going to try to reduce any fund balance appropriations when available. Development obligation revenue, part of the 2023 budget, we expected to receive $100,000 from a developer. That was received in the previous fiscal year and thus rolled to fund balance. So it's, again, another kind of academic exercise of recognizing that fund balance again. So that summarized all the initiatives and projects to be accounted for in this amendment. There was an effort to kind of match these new expenses with the respective departments as best as we could with their dedicated revenues, or reallocating their departmental expenditures. The Wendell Park concession stand was a good example of that. So in the aggregate of all these projects described tonight, the fund balance appropriations at this one will reduce it by about $45,000. So that is the summary of the budget amendment. So I'll take any questions if you have them.
Okay, any questions from the board?
Can you, I mean, you got this from my first question. One, thank you, but just with the next ones of these, if we could see that accounting on both sides as helpful as possible, you know, with not only the cost, but if you can account for where it's coming from as you've sort of laid out, that's really helpful information. On the sidewalks piece, with the Powell Bill funds that came in over, is there an ability within this fiscal year if we didn't reduce it? So like, in other words, can we let that Powell Bill money supplement our sidewalk program instead of, I know some of that's been shifted around because, you know, it's $110,000 Powell Bill overage, but only a $45,000 net negative impact to the fund balance appropriation at the bottom. So do we have time to do anything more on sidewalks, even if it's $45,000 instead of $110,000?
The budget officer recommendation at this point would be to respectfully hold off on that just a little bit. Let the board receive kind of the capital needs for the coming years, kind of that 10, 20 year at the budget retreat. And every little 100,000 adds up to, that can help us towards meeting our future needs. There's also just a capacity of the amount of work for limited staff in the Public Works Department to accomplish in the remainder of the fiscal year to expend the 100,000 and to find a contractor to do the work and have the easements and develop the project in place. That's one of our limitations right now with sidewalks. We're kind of on pace for expending the additional money provided by the board within this fiscal year, and I don't know that I I mean, we can always leave the additional 100,000 of fund balance in and increase that to 350 from 250 if the board wanted to, but I'm not sure that we're going to be able to expend it. I'd rather come back at a later date and ask for it. If we find that we can, I'd be glad to investigate it and get back to the board if that was the board's desire.
My preference would be that we save you a step and just leave the money in there and hope that you can spend it, and if not, then understand that. But would the $45,000 number be more appropriate than the 110 if we were going to make a change to what you proposed so that it's net? Do you have 110 left after all this? I mean, I know it could come out of the fund balance, but
I mean, ideally by the end, so part of bringing in regular budget amendments is y'all kind of get to see the sausage getting made as we go through the year. I mean, my goal every year is to bring back as much fund balance reserve to be able to use to solve the future capital needs as humanly possible each year. If we can get it to zero or add to our fund balance reserve, that's preferable. From both the board's adopted fiscal policy standpoint, and my recommendation as your manager. So if there's a specific need or project that the board would like to accomplish with additional funding, we're glad to pursue it. But if it's just putting it towards the project, I think that the main thing is the sustained commitment to the program and allowing us to build the work plan moving forward, because sidewalks is one of those areas that we don't have the built work plan like we do streets or stormwater. As far as infrastructure, it's you're going to see that in the Public Works budget request for the coming years, building that sidewalk assessment, maintenance and replacement plan, and that continuing effort is needed to be sustainable moving forward. That said, there's a significant capital need, and so we can, I'm sure, try and locate an additional $45,000 in projects around downtown to help with some of the ADA compliance. Some of our downtown sidewalks are more $1 million+ streetscape redos, and so messing with a $45,000 or $100,000 on a sidewalk is kind of limited.
Is your thought more trying to keep Powell bill funds?
I'm good.
Yeah, so Powell bill can be used on sidewalks, unlike the vehicle.
I think we're all very aware.
Yeah, and so it's being put here because it's an eligible expense within our budget, not so much as anything else.
This is another off the public radio or Public Works radios. I've never looked at we've never had anybody with radios outside the police department, so I've never seen an interoperability plan. Can you explain to me how that, is this effectively just like special event radios that Public Works use? Is this?
It's a limited number of radios with operability consistent with what emergency services. So like during a hurt, we talk through like.
I mean, I know there's a talk bank for Wendell Public Works. I've never heard anybody on that talk bank, so I guess that's what I was asking.
Chief, you want to?
So the way we approached it was to create interoperability. I have communicated with the Viper administrators at the state level to look at shared channels outside of this area where our resources need to be deployed. Also have talked with the fire department. There's equally a common channel that we share with fire services that they have agreed would be a shared channel. So it does give us interoperability.
Okay.
By program.
Thank you, Chief.
Yes, sir.
That explains the expense then.
Any other questions from the board?
Madam Mayor, I move we adopt the budget amendment as presented.
Okay, we have a motion to adopt the budget amendment as presented. Is there any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Right.
If I may, Madam Mayor, just to
Sure.
get clarification for
Yes.
future, Commissioner Eatman, you were wanting per project numbers and sources, that is correct? Okay.
That'd be great. Thank
Sure.
you.
Yes, sir.
Right, item 6B is a request to temporarily close a portion of North Main Street for the upcoming Pro Town BMX event. Mr. Pulaski.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Commissioners. I'm here requesting a temporary street closure for a portion of North Main for the upcoming Pro Town BMX event. Pro Town BMX is a stunt team out of Greenville, North Carolina that has performed all over the world. And they'll be performing 2 shows on Saturday, March the 25th, with shows at 11 a.m. and 2 p.m. And each show will follow up with an autograph session. And then they do free riding clinics with all the kids that want to sign up to get those. And they also provide bicycles and helmets for children that may not have any on site. The rain date set for that is March the 26th, with shows at the same time. North Main Street would be closed from 3rd Street to the railroad tracks from 9:30 a.m. To 5 o'clock p.m. And generally we get out of there before that 5 o'clock mark. The Public Works Department would be responsible for bringing the barricades and cones that evening. I have spoken with a majority of the business owners on Main Street. Some of them are closed at different hours, but the ones that I've spoken to are all in support of this event, and I will get around to the rest of them to let them know that street will be closed that day.
Any questions from the board? All right, motion.
My Mayor, I move we approve the temporary street closing for North Main Street for the Pro Town BMX event.
All right, we have a motion to approve the temporary street closing of North Main Street for the Pro Town BMX event. Is there any discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Looking forward to it.
Thank you.
Item 6C is the appointment of 2 partial term in-town Parks and Recreation Commission vacancies. And we're going to hear from our clerk, Mary Beth Tu.
Good evening. So as the mayor said, we are going to appoint 2 citizens to serve on the Parks and Recreation Commission. The first one will be term expiring June 30th, 2023, and the second will be June 30th, 2024. Due to the resignations of Dan Thorpe and Thomas Skull, there are the 2 partial term in-town vacancies. At the January 9th, 2023 Town Board meeting, the Board of Commissioners advised the town clerk to reach out to the applicants that were not appointed this past year, as well as to advertise the vacancies for 30 days. So we got a total of 4 citizens submissions. There was 1 previous applicant and 3 new applicants. They were advised of tonight's appointments and encouraged to attend and introduce themselves to the board at their discretion. So as you know, the Citizen Advisory Board recruitment process is a voting process done by written ballot. So applicants must receive an affirmative vote from a majority of the board members present and voting to be appointed. Appointees will start their new positions immediately following tonight's meeting, and I will follow up with them on the outcome of tonight's appointments. So we're going to do each one separately, so just not to get confused. So first we're going to do the term expiring June 30th, 2024. Okay, so for the appointment with the term expiring June 30th, 2024, we have W. Caleb Sanderson with 2 votes. So next we will be doing the vacancy that will expire June 30th, 2023, and I will mark out Mr. Sanderson since he's already been appointed.
Madam Clerk, could you restate the number of votes? I think you said 2 votes.
2, yes.
Are we off?
So it was 2, 1, and 1.
Okay, we're off because we don't have, I'm sorry. I forget how to listen to this.
That's right.
All right, and with the term expiring June 30th, 2023, with 4 votes, we have Jeff Sinkovich. So I'll reach out to those appointed and those not appointed, and the new members will take their oath at the next Parks and Recreation Commission.
Just to clarify, did the people who get appointed between the 2 votes receive a majority of votes? Like if you add,
So,
the attorney and I were asking, like, did any person get a majority of the board's votes, like 3 votes?
no, so it was 2 to 1 to 1.
So do we need to do another one to?
Yeah, let's do that one again.
Do that one again.
Okay. Do you want the original one, do you want it to be between the 3 people or just a new vote?
Between those 2 and
So that
with a longer term?
we don't come out with the same outcome.
If we vote between, now that you have 2 from plurality, allow us to assign which term length goes to which one?
You can certainly do that.
When that would clarify. We'd then voted on them 3 times. Dr. Lutz really needs to be here more often.
Say we were 4-0 on one, so let's just vote on the other one again. I wouldn't.
You gotta eliminate some names.
Then you eliminate the person that was 4-0 from the other ballot.
But you were voting with knowledge of the first vote.
I mean, this is a written vote. I know there's procedure about it and stuff, but do we need to talk at all? Is there a way to just figure this out? I mean,
You're
I'll be
free to
honest with you,
talk.
I'm used to here are people when we have 2 spots. I realize they're different expirations, but I think
Would you like to change Jeff Sinkovich to be the term expiring 2024 since 4 people voted for him? Is that what you were recommending, or?
No, what I would say is that Jeff got 4 votes because Caleb had already been eliminated at that point. There was 1 less person.
we don't roll again.
I guess we started with,
I think.
what does staff need from us?
Leave it the way it is.
I think that it could be, we
Good.
could have if we have whoever the 3 people are that got a vote in the first round, minus Jeff,
Yeah, but there's
if he's one of them,
a 1-1.
then we should vote on those people,
But it wasn't 2.
and somebody would get a majority, right?
So,
Do you have
2.
do you
Hey, I got an idea.
how we can come out of this? Let's hear from the town attorney.
Can I see the ballots?
Yeah.
Or Mr. Attorney, can I make
arm wrestling.
I mean, the
It would also,
2's more than 1, so 1, 1, 2, and 2 beats the 1.
It needs to be a
Yeah,
majority of the
I
board,
got you,
so
I got you.
we need to do one of them again.
it would also seem to me,
Let the
Madam
mayor,
Mayor,
let the mayor vote on 1.
It's only a tie.
it would seem to me that we can make a motion stating our intent from that, and then if we all voted, that would be a majority vote.
Let's let Jim tell us what to do. We page 4.
I've been waiting.
Huh?
I've been waiting.
I mean, I think that's a wise move.
So this is on 2024. This is a longer term.
2 seats.
Yeah, that's why there were 2.
I can make it easy. You can just give him a ballot back.
Why does this say these will expire in December?
So this
Change your vote.
is the first vote.
Oh, okay.
And then
I'm gonna do mine different this time. You can't just give them back with the same thing. Otherwise, we're gonna vote the same, it'll be the same thing, right? You gotta eliminate the ones, you know what I mean, just give it.
She probably needs to make some new ballots with the one name removed and do it.
Yep. Yep.
that was for this one.
I know.
It's ridiculous. I thought we were gonna get time tonight.
Two.
Not eligible.
Being late, I just don't like it.
This is
Oh, close up.
the second set of ballots, right?
Okay.
On the 7th set, this guy got 4 votes. We just hand this back and he votes the first ballot. Or the 3 people to pick from because they appointed.
How you make sure, those need to be, you gonna get
Can
them
we not just redo
cleaned
the
out.
first vote now that
Yes,
we
sir.
have one person
Different
removed?
mark. Make a different mark.
That's what they're working on
Okay.
doing.
Okay, so I'm gonna
Take
give you
them a
your
long
ballots
time.
back. You're going, we marked off just Sikovich, you're going to, circle your new choice for the term expiring in 2020.
Circle.
Which could be our previous choice as long as it
Yep.
isn't Xed off.
By that.
Okay, with a vote of 3-1, W. Caleb Sanderson is appointed with the term expiring June 30th, 2024.
Appointments to boards used to be really messy like that until you guys started doing it by written ballot. And the way you do it now, you haven't had an issue in a decade.
Yeah. The written ballot's better.
Yeah.
It used to be a screaming match. I didn't like that. Okay. Item 6D is a request to amend the Wendell Code of Ordinances, Chapter 18, Article 4, Section 8.82 regarding cemeteries.
Mhm.
Mr. Coates.
Yep, good evening, Mayor and board members. The motion for you tonight is an amendment to the Code of Ordinances, Chapter 8, Article 4, regarding cemeteries. Town of Wendell operates the Wendell Cemetery and has adopted code related to its operation. Article 4 interments include language related to vaults, tombs, mausoleums, and above-ground vaults in their locations. Currently, the ordinance only allows them on the gravel and specific lots. The town has received various requests over the last few years to allow them on other lots. Current regulations, the town does outsource the mowing of the cemetery. From what we could gather from previous staff was that the reason they weren't allowed was just staff didn't want to mow around things. And so there was no real reason, and we feel like giving everyone the option to have that above ground vault or their tombs or their mausoleums equitably across the entire cemetery is the correct thing. And so we've had requests. Currently, just to give you some updates, we average between 11 and 14 plots sold each year, which are two grave locations per plot. We do have in the proposed draft strategic plan to create a cemetery plan for the long-term maintenance of the cemetery, and also plan for some improvements moving forward. Based on our current sales, the town manager had me look at, we probably will have lots available for the next 45 years, so it is going to be a long-term project for the town. And so this is a request to amend the code to be equal across all lots for the potential of tombstones and vaults and things like that. So I can field any questions that you have.
Okay, any questions from Mr. Coates?
You just put them anywhere, that's it?
So the above-ground vaults or tombs and markings could be above ground. Right now, it's only in certain locations
Okay.
where they're allowed, so.
I think we didn't allow the monument.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
the mausoleum,
Only
yep,
the ride over.
yep.
Yes. I like the idea of allowing people to choose what they want for their loved one. So, any questions from the board?
Mayor, may we adopt the, ordinance, correct? The
Yes.
text amendment to the ordinance?
Yep.
Okay, so we have a motion to adopt the amendment to the Code of Ordinances, Chapter 8, Article 4, Section 8.82. Is that good? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. Item 6E is a decision to approve rankings to authorize the town manager to negotiate a contract for the request for qualifications for planning and design services for the rehabilitation of the Old Carver School into a community center and service expansion for the Pleasant Grove community. Very exciting stuff. Mr. Collins.
Before we move into that one, I'd just like to thank Brian for being the cemetery superintendent, which is a town manager appointed designation under the ordinance. He made the mistake of asking if he or I was the cemetery superintendent, and had the chance to look at the ordinance. I said, well, you are, sir. Thank you for wearing that hat. his department does most of the work around the cemetery at this time, so it's appropriate, but thank you, Brian.
You're welcome.
He wears many hats for us. All right, so 6E, long time coming in so many ways. We've had a really engaged process to select a consultant to do the design and planning services for the Pleasant Grove project. So it's a consultant that's going to help the community and its partners both do a rehabilitation design and construction documents for the old Carver School, and work with the community and Pleasant Grove community and town on a neighborhood plan about being one whole community after a long number of years. As you could see in the attached RFQ, there was a very deliberate intent and deliverance on equity and inclusion and diversity throughout this process and in every component of it. We included a DEI component to the score of this process, understanding the nature of this process and the need to reflect the community that's participating. And we're a diverse community in Wendell. Our selection committee that provided the recommendation reflected that diversity as well. Generations, genders, sexual orientation, race, culture, all of that was broken out, and we asked consultants to reflect our community. And they did we had a good selection of consultants that did a very good job, but of course at the end of it you can only provide the rankings and select one. A unanimous recommendation from the selection committee for Andre Johnson Architects out of Raleigh. Kind of shows the selection committee represented town staff, our Wake County funding partner, and they're also a service partner with Pleasant Grove. Pleasant Grove Baptist Church, the property owner, and also the Pleasant Grove CDC, the Community Development Corporation, that operates services out of there and will continue to after the project's done. And so we selected 3 firms out of those who submitted for a facilitated discussion and question session. There were times where it was kind of related to speed dating. You're trying to find a good match out of very qualified candidates. And so at the end of that, we ended up with Andre Johnson being a unanimous selection. That didn't just come to here like a normal process. Since the property owner isn't the town in this case, it's not just a solely town-funded project. We need to make sure that our other partners were on board with the recommendation. So the next step after that was to allow the CDC board, the Community Development Corporation board out at Pleasant Grove, to make their recommendation. The Pleasant Grove Baptist Church leadership made their recommendation, and then the Pleasant Grove church body in itself took a vote and voted to recommend Andre Johnson as Architects as the selected firm for this project. And so it's coming to you well vetted by both the technical selection committee and the community that would be impacted by the project to get to this point. The funding that's in the current fiscal year is $750,000 to start the design on this project. That will obviously roll over into next fiscal year and then start construction after the construction design is done. The planning may take additional time even beyond the construction rehabilitation of the building perhaps, as different areas and infrastructure are evaluated. And so, staff recommends that the board accept the ranking of the firms by the selection committee and authorize the town manager to negotiate a contract with Andre Johnson Architects.
All right, any questions from the board?
One step closer.
Okay. Have a motion?
So moved, Madam Mayor.
We have a motion to accept the recommended rankings and authorize the town manager to negotiate a contract with Andre Johnson Architects. Is that correct? Any discussion on the motion?
Thank you for your work on this. It's a big deal in a lot of different ways. Thank you.
All right, all in favor?
Thank you all so much. Next step from a board perspective is actually Congresswoman Deborah Ross coming to town for the big check handing over. Once we get a date coordinated with her office, we'll coordinate with the board. I know the mayor and Pastor Bell have been working with us on that, and so we're just trying to get that date worked out at this point. And then we'll bring in our Wake County partners and other partners for that event, and include Andre Johnson Architects in that invitation.
It's a lot of moving parts.
Yes, and it's a large project that's obviously very meaningful to the community.
I mean, even just to get that date, it's a
Yes.
lot of moving parts.
Everything takes an effort.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, item 6F is a discussion of our bus transit things that are going on. I know there's getting ready to be some community meetings and things.
Yep.
It's nice to have a chance to talk about that here now.
Yeah, I'm glad. Thank you for adding this to the agenda. Currently, the Wake Bus Plan is being updated. The draft for public comment is out. They are looking for as much feedback as possible. The bus plan is for the years 2025 through 2030. It is an update to the plan that was approved 7-8 years ago at this point. Some exciting projects that are in the draft bus plan for Wendell. First one is the extension of the Nightdale bus service out to the Wake Tech campus that's under construction. That's been identified to occur in 2027. The next is the ZWX is currently is an express bus that starts in Zebulon each morning, goes through Wendell and ends in Raleigh, and is just during peak morning and afternoon time. So there's a few buses in the morning, a few buses during rush hour in the evening. It's projected in the bus plan to that route will be adjusted, potentially going through Wendell Falls, still going through Wendell and Zebulon, into Wendell Falls and into Raleigh. And that would be hourly, so there would be a bus every hour throughout the day and on weekends, which is something we've heard a lot from the public that on a Saturday or Sunday, if I want to go to a museum or visit friends or family in Raleigh, it's very difficult. And so that's in the plan for 2025 to be adjusted. That will give a lot more access for residents to get into Raleigh or just travel between Wendell and Zebulon even. And then also with that would be a mobility hub, and there's not a location for that, but it would be potentially one or multiple sites for near bus stops that could be hubs for pedestrians to walk there, bike there, Uber or Lyft to the bus stop. And so it would be a multimodal mobility hub that's identified in 2025. It could occur in a couple different locations. And then microtransit, currently the microtransit, the Northeast Transit Service that operates in Wendell, Zebulon, Rollsville. The pilot would end July 1. Wake County is leading a contingent of us as planning staff to prioritize and reprogram some transit funds to continue that for another year after July 1. And then it most likely would be municipalities in the county leading an application for community area funding to continue that service. People are using it. They're using it to get to all kinds of things in the community, whether it be retail or doctor's appointments. And also, microtransit can feed very well into a fixed route system. And so if you could take an Uber from, let's say, South Hollybrook, take an Uber to the mobility hub and catch the bus that takes you to a doctor's appointment at Wake Med in Wendell Falls or Wake Med in Raleigh, you have options, and so mobility is key for everyone, no matter your age, to get around. So those are very exciting. One thing I would like to urge is to go to goforwardnc.org, give your thoughts on that. It's a draft plan. Nothing's been finalized, so the more you can talk about the need for Wendell and that those projects are important, the more likely they are to stay on that draft plan and become a reality. So goforwardnc.org. If you're at home watching, go right on, give them your feedback in a survey. We are doing some community engagement events with Go Triangle staff. We have a couple booked so far. Survey is open till March 22nd, but we are doing some in-person events. March 7th, the East Wake Senior Center from 9 to 11 in the morning. We'll have a table set up with Go Triangle staff, paper surveys, and also just information to give residents to gather feedback at the Senior Center, 9 to 11. And then later that day from 12 to 2, we'll be set up with Go Triangle staff at the Wendell Falls Clubhouse to engage the Wendell Falls community. Residents of Wendell are encouraged to attend either location. Also, if you're aware of any community groups that want to take some surveys, we can get paper surveys out to you. We can also get the links sent out through HOAs or different community groups if you want a link and a little blurb about the transit bus plan. So I can field any questions y'all have, but it's exciting to see some projects in our jurisdiction, and I think could really help with mobility issues. So
There's also the 2024 Wake Transit Work Plan that they're looking for input on as
They
well.
are, yep.
Same website.
Same website, yep.
Okay, so that one as well. So. All right, any questions from the board, comments?
Thank you
Okay.
for the audible tonight. Appreciate that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And comment, just thanks on the work with the county and others to reprogram some funds to keep that microtransit going. I finally took it last week. I had to take my car to get it worked on and left it for a couple days. And the bus came and picked me up, brought me straight to my house from the parking lot of the service station. I watched it go to Walmart and pick up a couple with their groceries who were on the way home after I was dropped off. It's an awesome service that just, I can't emphasize how important it is to me enough. Also, as a proud rider of the ZWX bus, gets me to work pretty often, not every day, but pretty often. Hourly service will make it more often a workable option for me. So I'm just glad for all of that. It's good stuff.
But I heard that there are actually some kids from East Wake High School that use that microtransit service periodically if they have an after-school event that causes them to miss the bus.
Yeah, yep.
So that's great. Yeah, I want them to be able to participate in things. I was excited to hear that. So.
I will say that I mentioned it to the guy at the service station, what I was doing while I was waiting outside, and he didn't know about it. And so I know that in the past when we've had the presentation, Dr. Lutz even had the same thought. Some of the more targeted informational stuff, I think that maybe we could help with, that folks at Go Triangle doesn't know, whether those are doctor's offices, car repair, whatever. I mean, I think there are probably some institutions or some places in Eastern Wake County that if they knew it was a thing and they could call it for their customers, they probably would. And that was the feedback I got from my service guy.
Yep. So at any given time, if there's a community group or organization that you're aware of, I'll gladly send them materials, whether it be a pop-up sign, whether it be an email. We can do that. That's fairly quick and easy. We can also do some more social media posts. We just did one in our newsletter that goes out.
Yeah.
We did a reminder of the micro transit, but we can do another social media post as well and
I would definitely
continue
do
getting the word out.
because I think we don't always catch everybody every time.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Okay, we can do that.
Right. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, other business, update on board committees by town board members. Campo, Commissioner Eatman.
We had a Campo board meeting a couple of weeks ago now, so let me refresh my memory. Mostly routine business. There was a really interesting presentation on demographic data and population trends in the triangle, and that's all information that feeds into what Campo is, what the area that is covered by our planning, our regional planning organization is. And so that's not only population and development, but commuting patterns and lots of interesting data and information. Be happy to share if anybody's interested in learning more. But certainly a neat way to get an update on how not just Wendell, but our whole region is growing. And I think we're heading back to in-person meetings for the first time since COVID at Campo, so that'll be my first in-person meeting. Looking forward to that. Hopefully next month, we'll see they're finally done getting moved into their new location, which has been a big part of that. and it's not a Campo thing specifically, but just can't emphasize enough clearly the importance of the bus plan and the transit plan and how they can really be opportunities to continue to develop and build out transportation in eastern Wake County.
Okay, we'll move into our commissioners' comments. Commissioner Joyner?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I want to address something tonight. So I want to start with, at the end of this, I'm going to be asking for town staff to prepare a resolution on our behalf and for that to be presented at the next board meeting related to the Carolina Mudcats five-county stadium and the ongoing negotiations. Last Monday night, we were made aware that a third party had decided to recruit the Mudcats. That is completely normal. If anyone's ever been around me during baseball season, I've attended Mudcats games since roughly 1992, and still continue. My friends will tell you that I occasionally can go down rabbit holes, and I went down a rabbit hole on this particular one, but I'm glad I did in figuring out things like economic impact to our community, and following and reading the history of a storied franchise that is one of the only large outdoor venues as well as large outdoor sporting venues in eastern Wake County. I have already reached out to every single Wake County commissioner and would encourage my colleagues to do the same, where you can act like rational board members and allow the resolution to speak for you. That is certainly also within your wheelhouse. The Mudcats are important. I have heard that said to me by community members over the past week. I have certainly said it to plenty. I would just highlight that the Wake County Commissioners have assured us that they are working hard on this and that they believe that they will get to a resolution. I have a variety of concerns about the other proposed location, including Muddy the Mudcat being considered sushi in Wilson County versus Wake County. There are a long list of reasons why the Mudcats shouldn't go. I'm happy to provide those to staff and spare you guys the short haiku as well as a rhyming poem that I wrote about this issue. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Commissioner Eatman?
Nothing else tonight.
Commissioner Tornaski?
No comment, Mayor.
Commissioner Deloach?
How do you follow that, Madam Mayor? I will say, if you know me, baseball is also my love language, so I'm all in on baseball. Mudcats are near and dear to my heart as well. Just want to thank town staff. Thank you, Mr. Coates. Remind everyone, goforwardnc.org. Your input is needed. March 7th, again, they will be at the East Wake Senior Center from 9 to 11. And then from 12 until 2, they will be at the Wendell Falls Clubhouse. So felt like it was important to, rather than just mention it in commissioner comments tonight with the upcoming meetings, there's tons of great stuff going on. I will say that I'm a little disappointed Commissioner Eatman did that without me, because we've talked about that previously, but all good. That's it, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. A few things real quick. If you are interested in volunteering your time and knowledge for the town of Wendell, we'd love you to apply for a citizen board position. Public art, beautification efforts, downtown development, all kinds of things. The openings for those boards will begin in June. The application deadline is April 30th, and appointments will be made in May. So we encourage you to take a look. Those are all available on the town website. The Wendell Market is starting its season back this Thursday night from 6 to 9. That's very exciting. I'd urge you to go down there and check it out on Campen Street. This coming Monday, March 6th, is the town of Wendell's 120th birthday. So that's kind of exciting. The Wendell Historical Society is holding a celebration this Saturday. From 1 to 5, you can come by and visit and enjoy some cupcakes and take a look in the museum. They're going to be holding that in the museum, so please join them for that. That's going to be very exciting. Stars in the East, which is a major fundraiser for the East Wake Education Foundation, is going to be held Thursday, March 9th at East Wake High School, 7 p.m. Tickets at the door. This showcases kids from Wendell schools, and it's a great event every year. It's a great opportunity to see how talented our kids around Wendell are. I always enjoy going. This year, I'm actually going to be emceeing along with the mayors from Knightdale and Zebulon, so that should be fun. I told them to bring their A game because I think we'll have a good time, but we need to really have a good time with it. So that's important. Also, one more thing I wanted to share with you. I attended the Wake Tech topping out ceremony for the education building this past week. And I was invited there to attend and to speak about Wendell for a few moments, which I did. And afterwards, I had 5 different people that worked for various vendors, architects, planning people, just all kinds of people come up and stop me and brag about the Town of Wendell Planning Department. And I was so excited about it, I came straight here and went and talked to Brian Coates and thanked him for his efforts on our behalf, and then, of course, the town manager as well. And it wasn't just thanks for the sake of thanking. They gave real specific examples of how they, in putting together that campus at Wake Tech, had met a hurdle or a challenge or something, and how planning staff had been so gracious and helpful and helped them think outside the box in a way that would meet our needs and theirs. And over and over and over, I kept hearing this. And I just don't think it was for my benefit, and I just wanted to thank them, so I'm thanking them again now, so that all of you know how great our planning staff is. They make my job a lot easier, all our jobs a lot easier. So thank you again, Brian. I think Stacy's over there, and I'm not sure who else. So thank y'all very much, and please pass my thanks along to the others in your department. I heard comments about quick turnaround, sidewalk, just all kinds of things, and I just was really blown away by it. But I'm not surprised. I was not surprised at all. So we do operate from a position of excellence as much as we can, and I appreciate that. All right, so that's all I've got. We have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right, we're adjourned.